And what's new around here? I see they're digging a nice hole next to the little slab that I have under the water nipple. And it does feel warm this morning, so I think I better turn the sprinkler on for these guys. Late September, you wouldn't really think you have to do that, but I guess today we do. I still haven't done anything about that ground squirrel, and you can tell that there looks like there's been some fresh activity there. I think today we're gonna set a trap for him. I'm not really sure what to use as bait for a ground squirrel, but I'm thinking probably 5 minutes on the internet will educate me on that. Ground squirrel bait. Well, of course they got a lot they want to sell you. Okay. Pistachios, almonds, walnuts, oats, barley, and many fruits and vegetables. We could probably scare up some of those. And speaking of catching squirrels, it's probably about time, or honestly probably past time, for me to get some traps set up in the hay barn, because I know I cut my hay a little bit late this year, which gave the grain heads a little more time to develop. So the rodents are gonna absolutely love that hay this year. So I need to try to get in front of them instead of start playing catch up here in a couple months. So I guess we'll start there and see where we end up. That's what's going on today on Farmer Tyler Ranch. Instead of having the sprinkler fan over the entire pen, I've just got it aimed over in that area, because I know that in the afternoon that'll be in the shade. That'll be where they want to lay anyway, and then if we have, you know, some wet mud for them, they'll like that even better. So a quick Google search revealed that ground squirrels like what you would pretty much expect them to like. Nuts, fruits, kind of anything along those lines. So I've got some peanut butter here. And then I'm thinking that they would probably really like pig feed as well. And they might even like it better if we mix the two together. So I think I'm gonna use a mixture of the two on the actual trip platform. And then we'll use like a little bit of pig feed kind of sprinkled up to get them to wanna go in there. But first, let's get a little bit of pig feed. We can spare that much. It's kind of weird. I don't know if you guys can see that. The peanut butter has like a liquid layer on top. I guess that's what happens when it sits in the shop for however long it's been sitting in the shop. Well, I think it'll work for what we're using it for. What squirrel could resist that? That looks excellent. Well, that's kind of interesting. Callie, don't be licking that now. So up here where he's been digging, there's a peach pit. Several peach pits, actually. And that's, I'm not sure, maybe part of a pomegranate. So he's been going for fruit, it seems. But also notice a bunch of feathers here. That I did not expect. Would a squirrel like eat a bird? I just don't know. Apparently it would, or whatever. Maybe this isn't a ground squirrel, but whatever's living in this hole likes fruit and apparently birds. Okay, so we got our mix here in this little can. We'll put that in the trap, and then we'll use pig feed to kind of lure him in there. And then I think I will see if I can find some junk fruit on these trees to kind of sweeten the deal a little bit for him. It's up in the front. You ought to be able to smell that. And then I'm not really sure about trap placement. I guess we'll put it right here near his hole. He ought to find it here. After looking at his hole a little bit more closely, it looks like he is going under the fence here and probably down to the pig feeder to eat pig food. So maybe we will move the trap up there. Yeah, because it looks like he travels there quite often. So we'll just put it right in this area somewhere and he's sure to find it. Just like up here. What I'm using here is called a live trap, and that's because it's not lethal. What'll happen, the squirrel will walk in the trap, and as he smells the bait and works up the courage to get up there and take a bite of it, he'll step on this little platform, and when he does, it'll pull the lever which closes the door behind him. The trap itself is not lethal, but what's going to happen to him afterwards, well, so looking around in the orange tree, we've got a bunch of green oranges that will be ripe in a couple of months. But I did see, yeah, right there, we've got an orange one here. This has probably been on the tree for quite a while. It feels a little mushy. It might be all right to eat, but it looks like we've got a good crop coming in this year. Look, that's a big one there. With the oranges, my wife will she like slices them up and drizzles chocolate over them. That's a good way to eat them. And then we'll probably make a couple gallons of orange juice. But you can't believe how many oranges it takes to make orange juice. Yeah, we would need like a whole orange grove here to make enough orange juice to last us for a year. And of course the peach trees are bare right now, but I did see a bit of a pomegranate there in his little dirt pile, and we've got a couple pomegranates. That one up there, that's probably an eater. We don't want to give him that. Even this one is not terrible, but I did see one over here that I think we could sacrifice right there. Enough for him to eat in there. One there. One there. Give him the half all the way up front. Yeah, this is kind of mushy. Just give it to the pigs. You guys want that? One last thing before we walk away from this. Because this is a squirrel, even though it is a ground squirrel, he'll probably want to climb all over this cage before he actually goes into it. So I'm putting the rocks on top so he can't accidentally tip it over on its side, in which case it would either set the trap off so that he couldn't get into it, or it might just kind of render the trap useless. So hopefully having the rocks up there will keep everything the way it needs to stay. And now we just wait. And if you're like me, you're thinking, man, we should put the trail cam on that trap just to kind of see what happens. But what I'm worried about, if I do that, you'll see the pigs in the background would just be setting it off all the time. So I don't think that would work. I think you would get a lot of footage of pigs, and they might wear the battery all the way out so that we would end up missing the thing that we're actually trying to see. I will be putting the trail cam up in the barn though on one of the good nature traps, and hopefully we'll catch something cool there. Over here at the barn, we're taking a multi-pronged approach to rodent control, and the first, probably most effective thing that I do is try to attract barn cats. I've had one that I've been feeding here on the hay bale to keep her around, and I'm kind of hoping that she has some kittens to really boost the population here this winter. I've been aiming the trail cam here at the dish just to try to see if there's any new cats, but so far I've only seen the one. I actually haven't checked it, so I might throw in some footage of a different cat here if we caught one. But for now, there is one confirmed. It's a black, kind of more like fuzzier cat, I guess. Got a lot of hair on it. I've had a lot of people say to not feed the barn cats because if you feed them and they're not hungry, that they're not going to do as good of a job catching the mice. And I just don't agree with that. I think that when you feed them, it keeps them here because they know that there's always a reliable source of food. But cats are born killers, man. There's nothing you can do to make them not want to catch a mouse. I think we're gonna move this wherever one of our traps are. We got to go through and see if we caught anything interesting here. Well, I've got close to 1,200 videos here that are just that same cat eating out of the dish or me filling the dish up. So I don't think we have anybody new living in here, but our black cat is doing well. Well, I know the cat frequents this area because I've got her on the trail cam many times. So I would have to kind of assume that maybe the rodents aren't running around freely here because the cat is here so often. So I don't really think that this is actually a great place to put any traps. I think maybe the other side of the barn would be better, and then maybe in the back corner down there. The way that these traps work, you've got bait up here, and then there's a little trip wire. When they crawl up in there to get the bait, they hit the trip wire, and then a plunger, you know, slams down on them. We'll try this. You'll be able to hear it, but you won't be able to see it if it works. Yeah, got that one. So that one's still good. How about this other one? Yeah, see, this one's not working. So it's out of gas. Yeah, there's no hiss or anything coming off of this. All right, it's rebaited. We'll go ahead and put a new CO2 cartridge in. That's got to help them go in there, right? Okay, these should be all ready to go. So yeah, let's go try to find a good spot for them. Seems like back in here would be a good spot. If I was a rat, this is where I'd hang out. Might be too dark for you guys to see, but we're gonna put it right down here, kind of where these bales come together. And then I'll have to find a spot for the trail cam. Okay, try it right there. With it facing that way, the cows won't set it off, so hopefully whatever it catches is what we're trying to catch. Now for the other one, I'm gonna come back here at the corner. I've had luck back here before, and I can see between these two round bales, there's like some chaff on the ground, and that's almost definitely from rodents getting in there and chewing on stuff. So I think this will be a good place to put a trap. So why use the good nature traps here in the barn instead of like poison or something like that? Well, the reason is because we're also trying to keep cats in the barn, and if I poison a bunch of mice or rats and then the cats go and eat them, it just seems like, you know, it's not going to be good for them. I have used poison in the past when I didn't think there were any barn cats in here, and you know, it works okay, but I think the combination of traps and cats, that's what really seems to work the best. Last winter, I estimate we had like 5 or 6 cats living in this barn, and I trapped a little bit as well, but to be honest with you, I think just having those 5 cats in here was really all I needed. When I was pulling hay out of the barn, I never saw any mice or any sign of rodents, really. So I think moving forward, that's probably what I will do. Well, the rodents are more or less dealt with for now. I shouldn't say that. They're not dealt with, but we're, you know, at least making progress with them, I guess. Anyway, that's all that I can do for them today. But while we're kind of in this mode of pest control, I would like to go fill up the cow sprayer because I can see the flies are making a comeback yet again. Full enough, I guess. Get her turned on. That initial pump you hear is just the agitation pump. It pulls material off the bottom of the tank and dumps it on the top so that you know, everything stays mixed up properly. Go ahead and test it, make sure everything's working, and then hopefully we'll see some cows walk through. Looks like my top nozzle's plugged here. How's that look? Much better. This is my second season with the cow sprayer here, and it's not without its faults, but this thing actually does work. And the proof of that is all the dead flies that will be on the ground after the herd walks through. Probably about 99% of the time, I'm just spraying a mixture of dish soap and water in this thing, and that seems to do a good enough job to kind of keep things under control if the cows are walking through this often enough. In my setup, that can be an issue sometimes because when they're down in the back field, they're obviously not going to be walking through this gateway. So I can either move this around or just kind of give them an application when I can. And that's one of the things that I don't like about the sprayer is that it's really kind of a pain to move it. Even just moving it from one gateway to the other, it's a lot better if I can just leave this thing in one spot and forget about it. My other big complaint with this is kind of what you just saw. It's not very easy to refill it either, and you have to refill it fairly often, at least with this number of cows I do. Probably every other day or so, they will run through this 25-gallon tank. A way of getting around that or making it a little bit easier would be to like hard line a pipe going up this side of the sprayer and then into the tank with a hose fitting down here at the bottom, so I could just screw the garden hose into this hard line and then turn the hose on and have it fill that way. I'd still have to climb up there to put the soap in, but at least I wouldn't have to stand up there while that thing's filling up. I do often get asked about the ratios for mixing that, so it's a 25-gallon tank. I put a gallon of dish soap in there for that 20, I guess it'd be 24 gallons of water. Basically, the way that works is the soap coats the fly and basically suffocates them, so there is no residual effect on the, you know, like if they walk through the sprayer and then an hour later if a fly comes and lands on them, he's not going to be harmed at all. It's just as they walk through, everything that the sprayer hits is going to basically get it. And I guess that's the biggest advantage to the cow sprayer. You've got 3 nozzles on the ground, a nozzle on either side, and then 3 on top. So the cow really gets covered quite well as opposed to like a back rubber where they're only getting an application to the tops of their backs. If the flies are bad enough on the cows where I feel like I need to add some permethrin into that mix, then I'll do whatever the label says for hand spraying an animal. I think it's like 1.5 ounces per gallon. So it takes quite a bit to put in that 25-gallon tank. But, you know, when you need it, you need it. You're a good looking heifer, number 18. Your mother is 59. Wow, we might have to keep her. GoPro doesn't do close up very well, but after that heifer walked through, you could just see a bunch of flies on the ground kind of squirming. You know what that means. Now, if I could just get them to walk through there and then have it start raining, I'd have the cleanest cows in the county. Back in the shop now, looking at the pig feeder, and in the last video where I was working on this, many of you suggested to move away from the metal lids and just get some rubber flaps and use those as lids. And at first, I didn't like that idea because I'm pretty sure that the rubber will leak water. I don't see how it can be watertight. It may not leak a lot of water, but I think it's definitely gonna leak some. But with that being said, there is also a very good chance that my metal lids leak water. Again, not a ton, but a little. And as I start weighing the pros and cons of these two different ways of doing the same thing, I am kind of starting to lean towards the rubber lids. And the main reason why is that they are roughly 1,000 times easier to do than the metal lids will be. I mean, let's think about this for a minute. If I just cut out a piece of rubber that fits over this entire side of the feeder and then bolt it in at the top, probably use some silicone to seal it at the top, then that's it, we're done. The pigs can just reach in here, fold the rubber up, reach in and eat, and then when they leave, the rubber will flop right back down. This will be effective at keeping rodents out of the feeder. It'll keep most of the water out, probably not all, but like I say, with the metal lids, that's probably about as good as we were gonna do anyway. Thinking to just use like a stall mat type material. I can cut that with a circular saw fairly easily, and I think we're gonna try that. If it doesn't work, if it just leaks too much, I can always come back and add the metal lids later. But the metal lids are significantly more work. I've got to cut out all of these little gutter pieces, and then I've got to cut the lids out themselves. I've got to roll the edges of the lids so they fit on the metal. Just to do one takes well over an hour, and I haven't even figured out how I want to do the hinges or any of that stuff. So I think just from a labor standpoint, the rubber lids make more sense. So thank you for the suggestions. That is a good idea, and I never even really thought of that. And I think that's the direction I'm gonna go with this now, and we'll see how it works. Thanks for hanging out with me today, guys, and I hope I'll see you again on Farmer Tyler Ranch.